iPhone 4S complete disassembly. Cut open the box, slide the bottom out, and remove the phone. Now remove the two screws on the bottom, holding the back plate. Now slide the back cover up and then off the phone. Remove the two screws holding the battery connector. Use a prying tool to disconnect the battery connector. There's a small little bracket right behind the connector. It goes underneath. Now pry the battery up on the back of the frame. You do not want to pull on the actual flap that comes with the phone. Sometimes it rips and sometimes it's not strong enough to pull the battery up. Bend the flap to the side and just stick it to the double-sided tape to get it out of the way. Remove the screws and the shield covering the charging ribbon. Use a prying tool to disconnect the ribbon. Pull on the ribbon gently as there is adhesive holding it to the motherboard. The prying tool can help separate the adhesive from the motherboard. Slightly bend it to the side in order to get to the other screws. Remove the screw on a small shield covering one of the connectors. Now use a set of pliers to remove that small shield. Now you're ready to remove the other 4 screws holding the big shield. Use a set of pliers again to remove the big shield. You have to kind of twist it down and then pull up. Use a prying tool to disconnect all of the connectors. Slightly bend them to the side in order to get it out of the way. Disconnect the camera and remove the camera. There's a small square piece of tape covering one of the screws. Use an X-Acto knife to pry it up and then remove it with tweezers. Now remove that covered screw and remove the bracket underneath. Use a flathead to remove one of the screws on the top and then one on the bottom. Carefully disconnect the antenna on the bottom. Then twist it around and bend it out of the way. Remove another screw holding the motherboard at the bottom. Now would be a good time to remove the SIM tray. Remove the two bottom screws holding the speaker. Remove a small little plastic bracket on the left side of the speaker. Pull the speaker unit up and out of the way. Now remove the last screw holding the motherboard before it can be removed. Double check to make sure all the ribbons are out of the way, and then pull on the motherboard slightly up and out. There's a small piece of rubber. Make sure it's on the motherboard. Now it's time to remove the vibrator. You can use tweezers or the prying tool. Be very careful not to damage the springs on the side. Now we're going to remove the USB port jack. There's two screws holding it on each side. On the left side there's a little piece of tape covering one of the screws. Just pry that up and bend it out of the way. Before removing the port jack, you gotta disconnect the speaker unit, and then you gotta disconnect the home button. Now gently pull on the ribbon and wiggle it from side to side. It is held by a double-sided tape. Once you get a little gap between the USB port and the frame, you can pry it with the X-Acto knife or the prying tool. Don't pull it out all the way. It is still holding on the other side with a double-sided tape. There's another little square piece of tape covering one of the screws on the frame. Slightly bend it out of the way with the X-Acto knife, and then use tweezers to take it out. Remove the 3 screws holding the volume button together. Now remove one of the screws holding the vibrator switch. There's one more hidden screw. You'll be able to get that later. Take the ribbon and pull on it very gently. Remove the screw that's holding in the head jack unit. There's a small little block taped to the frame. Use an X-Acto knife to separate it from the frame. Now you're able to bend the head jack to the side and get the other screw that was hidden. Now you can remove the whole head jack assembly and remove both of the buttons. Front-facing camera is held by a bracket. It snaps into place and you can use an X-Acto knife to pry it up. Pry it on 2 different sides in order to get it off. The screen is held by 4 small screws and 6 big screws with washers. You can remove all of them now. The screen is stuck onto the frame with double-sided tape. Try to use an X-Acto knife to get a little gap in between the screen and the frame, and then use a prying tool to separate the screen from the frame. Use the prying tool to pry on all different sides in order to separate the screen carefully. Do not pry the LCD section. Once all sides have been separated, do not remove the screen until you know the ribbons are clear. Try not to put the frame down with the sticky side down, as that will stick to the mat. You can always put something underneath the frame for support. Now remove the two screws holding the lock button. Now we're going to remove the ear speaker unit. The ear speaker unit is held by double-sided tape and a little bracket on top. To remove the bracket, snap it off the side and it'll pop right up. Now you can separate the top ribbon from the frame and bend it out of the way. The earpiece unit is taped to the frame. You can carefully separate it with an X-Acto knife. Be very careful not to cut anything. Once it's separated from the frame, you can use tweezers to get it out of the way. Now we're going to remove the SIM tray trigger. Now we're going to remove the home button. Use an X-Acto knife to separate it from the frame and use tweezers to peel it off. Now we got to remove a little sensor glass on top. It is held in place by a little tape. Use an X-Acto knife to get the edges out of the way. Then bend it slightly up and use tweezers to remove it. Now the iPhone 4S disassembly is complete to the frame.